Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Podcast. I'm Mike Stansbury. Today I have a special, very special guest from New York City, Brian Stark. Brian, how are you, sir?
Fantastic. Michael Stansbury, a pleasure to be here with you today, sir.
Well, great. We're going to get into your story here in just a second, but want to pay the bills at Investor Fuel. We help real estate investors, service providers, and real estate entrepreneurs 2 to 5x their business to allow them to build the businesses they've always wanted and allow them to live the lives they've always dreamed of. And again, like I said, our special guest today is Brian Stark. Brian has a really rich history in the real estate industry and the radio and broadcasting history. We'll try to get into all of it in this podcast. But Brian, first and foremost, I always start with this. What is your superpower today? What are you helping people with in the marketplace today? How does that look like in your world?
Well, thank you, Michael, so much. I think the way that I help people the most is I provide all the money you want for all the deals you want to do. If you're a real estate investor, whether just starting out, looking at your first deal, or doing your 100th or 1000th deal, if you're doing a $45,000 house in the inner city somewhere or a $45 million development deal, whether New York City or Wichita, Kansas, we can provide the capital. In many cases, 100% of the financing, but certainly, if not 100%, whatever the market will bear at the best rates that are available. And most importantly, we're going to work really hard to give you good terms and to service your needs perfectly, considering your situation. We've been doing it for many, many years. I've funded hundreds of millions of dollars of deals.
Okay, I always love to kind of get granular with this. How did you get started in the lending business? What preceded it? And do you remember the first loan that you funded? Or maybe one kind of close to that said, okay, this is where I think I could win in the marketplace or help people?
That's a great question. I wish we had 2 or 3 hours for this show because I'd love to tell you the whole truly granular story, but I'll tell you the basic story. I always loved learning about very, very successful entrepreneurs, and Rockefeller and Ford and all those guys are guys that I've studied and read quite a bit about. They all were big 150 years ago on what's called vertical integration. Large companies don't do vertical integration the way they used to, but back in the old days, if you went to the River Rouge, factory that Ford has, raw materials would come in one end and finished cars would come out the other. They literally made everything from scratch in that place, all in one place. So long story short, we got into the real estate investing business. My family and I, back in those days, it's my company now, but we started buying little apartment buildings and houses and so on. We had sold a small business and, made a couple of bucks. And very quickly we ran out of money, which I learned later is something that every real estate investor does, no matter how much money or how many zeros are at the end of the transactions they do. They run out of, if you're any good at this business, if you're any good at finding deals, you find more deals than you have money for. You always do. because finding deals is the core of the business.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
Okay, so I thought back to, Rockefeller and Ford and these other guys, and I thought, well, if we're going to be in the real estate business, it's really the money business. So if we're going to really be in the money business, we better be in the money getting business, not just the money investing business. So I started thinking, how am I going to get in the money getting? How am I going to manufacture money? And I met a guy who used to make at one of our Real Estate Investors Association RIA meetings. I was an early founder of one, but I went to another one before that. And met an old guy with jean suspenders who used to collect up money from old ladies and make loans to real estate investors with that money. He used to make loans to people that fix and flip, 30 years ago. And he taught me the basics of how he did it. So I got together with a guy that I had become partners with on a 2-family. And he listened to, and I said, hey, let's do this thing that this guy George is doing. And anybody who might be from Cleveland who would know me would know what George I'm talking about. He was an old guy that we all knew back in those days. Anyway, my partner, Paul, at the time listened to me and he said, that's pretty interesting. Let me get my buddy Lou, to listen to this story. So Lou was a partner of his from some other businesses who had been the accountant for the family of Chef Boyardee. So he knew a little something about putting together people with money. He listened, took out a pencil and kind of licked it with his finger and, wrote down some notes. And he said, you mean we can make this much money, this much interest? You think people will pay it, blah, blah, blah? Yeah. So to make a long story short, he said, all right, I'll get back to you. A couple of weeks later, we had $500,000. I had no idea where he got it. He did what we later learned is called a club deal. Went to the country club, sat around naked in the locker room. It's a visual. And said to some of his buddies who probably just, put their clubs in the bag, hey, I got a deal for you, put some money together. Long story short, we eventually had about $8 million and we built a business one step at a time, knew nothing about what we were doing, but we figured it out one step at a time. We were a good little partnership. And that was my first lending company. Other people put the money together and I was the underwriter and my brother was the construction manager. Eventually, those guys retired, to make a very long story short, and I started another company. By then, I knew a little bit about it. And interestingly, here we are on a podcast. My first funding partner, the first person that provided money to me, was a guy that did his radio show after our radio show, because I used to do radio every week. And he would sit in the studio. He would come in the studio before our show was done and, make little jokes to try to distract us while we were on the mic, and hoping we would laugh or, make a crazy noise. And eventually one day after the show, he said, hey, I should do some deals with you guys. And he was our first funding partner that we found directly. Basically, it was a relationship, and it's a great story. How do you raise money? How do you find money for your deals? Well, make friends with people who come to like you and trust you. And he did, because we were on the radio. He was on the radio. Once in a while, he'd call me and say, hey, I'm going to be late. Can you open my show? Or I can't be in town. Why don't you take my show? Or we'd be out of town and he'd take our show. So we became friends. And he just automatically said, anyway, I don't remember the first deal that we did, but I remember the first kinds of deals we did, Michael. And they were, very difficult deals. The type of deals that nobody else would fund, no formal lender would fund, because they were people with bad credit in bad neighborhoods where the after repaired values were, questionable. But we liked the deals, and to us, they made sense. To this day, 2,000 loans later, although I have a lot more structure, I still am that guy that'll do a deal that makes sense to me, but pretty much no one else will do it. And that's why I have a business. I found a niche in a business where I'll do something pretty much nobody else will do. Now, There's all kinds of businesses that are very successful because they do what everybody else does, and they maybe do it with a little twist. But
if you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency. It's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
That's our business today, funding for borrowers primarily who have trouble getting loans any other way, or just don't want to go through the difficulty of dealing with you don't want to go walk into one of those big banks and have a guy say, no, we can't help you, fill out all these forms, all that stuff. We make it very easy. If I walk in or see the deal and say, we'll do it, shake your hand. It's a couple of simple forms, very easy.
Well, one of the things that I caught there is that, with the amount of resources and the amount of time that you've spent actually real estate investing and before lending, when somebody comes to you with a deal that doesn't make sense to a bank, it may make sense to you because you've seen it done before. You can see it. You can see what the vision that they have. And sometimes that's a type of risk that banks won't do because they have to tick off the ledger. They have their checklist, but you also have your checklist of, hey, I've seen these deals work before, or I see the vision, and that's where you've got a advantage in the marketplace. I can absolutely see where that makes you stand out, and it seems like you got a pretty good track record.
We've done quite a lot of them, absolutely. And unlike what many people think, I don't loan to own. I'm not in the business, and I don't really know any lender who does. I'm not doing this hoping, oh boy, maybe this guy will fail and I'll get his house. The last thing I want is a house. What I really want is a borrower who succeeds and comes back again and again and again and comes to trust us. And sure, maybe we reduce the rate a little bit. Most banks, most of the large lenders are making a loan that they can sell as an asset to someone else, some large company. We don't sell our paper. So we have the unique situation that when we make a loan, our funding partners own that paper. We service it. I literally personally am involved in the receiving of the payment and distributing the money every month. So as long as the borrower is successful, it's good for everybody. Yeah, we see a vision in a deal that most people can't see, or these large lenders simply can't fit it into the credit box of the places where they can sell their loans. And so it works for us.
That's great. So
yeah.
before the lending, right? And before you got in that, and I love that story of how that happened. You also dropped a big nugget there, is that you, in your radio world and even preceding that, you talked to people, you networked, and you found people with money. You mentioned, you mentioned your friend going to the country club. And, that's one of the things that people, especially at this point, post-COVID, is people don't know how to talk to people. People don't know how to network. They're used to, this is okay. This is good. And you and I are bantering back and forth and having a good time. But actually going to RIA meetings and talking to people and finding out what their skill set is and how you can help them, that's where it seems like you won. You did really, really well.
I appreciate your saying that. I think you said something so important, figuring out how you can help them. That's the exact opposite of what most people think of. They think, oh, let me go to this meeting and figure out who can help me. That's absolutely the wrong approach. Go to that meeting and figure out how you can help them. How can I be a resource to you? Don't worry about how they can help you. Don't worry about what we used to call the Whiffam factor. What's in it for me? Just go there, try to make friends. It's wonderful to have friends. I got this thing here. Let me see. I know this is taking a few valuable seconds of our podcast.
Oh, I love it. Sometimes the silence is good. It makes them process things.
All right. You see this? Can you see it?
I see it. I see it. Yes, sir.
And box of business cards. I collect business cards. It's pretty old-fashioned. But at the end of the day, I go there looking to meet people that I'm interested in, people that I like. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. Okay? So the know part starts first. You have to meet someone. You have to, very, very few people do any transaction of any meaning without doing it with, with someone they don't know. Okay, maybe you go to the grocery store or you stop into a drugstore, but if you go to the drugstore, you're likely going to go to the one that has a brand name you know.
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
You like and you trust. If you have a choice of 3 on the corner, you're going to pick the one with the red sign, or the one with the script sign, or the one with the little prescription sign, one of those 3 brands, because like, and trust one of them. Even there, know, like, and trust is the rule. So, you want to build a network of people that you know, that you like, that you trust, and that know, like, and trust you, and be of service to others. We get paid in direct proportion to the amount of value we deliver.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I love the know, like, and trust. I could tell, the flavor of the talk. I want to hear maybe your top 3. We can go either books that you've read that have helped you in your business, or maybe personal mentors or people that you listen to on a regular basis. What does that look like for you, Brian?
Wow, that's a question I didn't expect. But
you can pick which one. You can book the books or people specifically.
Well, I'm going to start with 10 Qualities of a Total Winner, which had a foreword by Earl Nightingale, and was written and recorded by, he would kill me if he knew that I'm 65 years old, and I was given these 10 tapes when I was 18. I burned them up so much that I got a second set and then eventually a third set, and I sometimes gave them away to friends. Anyway, Dr. Dennis Waitley recorded the tapes, and I was so fortunate that about 10 years ago I had Dennis Waitley on my show, and it was amazing to talk with him privately and have him. He was a great guest and a wonderful guy. So 10 Qualities of a Total Winner is absolutely my all-time favorite thing. But then, it's not a book, but it's a set of the old cassette tapes. But also, I have to say, and, for better or for worse, and this is not a pitch of any kind, I listen to Joel Osteen most every day.
Okay, yeah.
I met Joel in person. He's very inspirational. And so, although I'm not an avid Bible reader, there's nothing like getting down to basics. Those stories and the meanings behind them drives everything. Number 3, I don't know. I Think and Grow Rich. I mean, I've read so many of those books. I don't even remember which one has the most lessons for me. I love them all.
Yeah, sometimes, especially the Napoleon Hill, a lot of his lexicons is really, really good stuff. But yes, sir, go ahead. I've interrupted you.
Well, no, that's okay. I mean, personal mentors. There's half a dozen guys in the real estate, education space that I've listened to and seen. And I have to say, without mentioning any names, I was fortunate to coach from the stage with a few other guys over the years who hired me to teach with them. And so, it was wonderful to learn from them. They're not necessarily the greatest people, so I'm not going to mention their names, but they know a lot and taught a lot. I will say this. I was fortunate to have Famous Amos on my show, Wally Famous Amos. And he was a really interesting guy who started out as a Hollywood agent. He was Diana Ross's agent and Helen Reddy's agent, and he used to bake cookies according to his grandmother's recipe and leave them in people's office to get them to call him back. That's how the cookies started. And people liked the cookies so much that I think Helen Reddy lent some money or invested some money or something, the famous old singer from The Morning After or whatever. Anyway, he started the shop and made a big company. And then he became known as Famous Amos, but then he sold the company and he wasn't allowed to use what had become his name, Famous Amos. Just imagine, Michael, what if you sold this podcast and got $1 million, but you aren't allowed to call yourself Michael Stansbury anymore? That would be pretty traumatic. And
That'd be
anyway,
difficult. Yes.
yeah, so he was on the show because he had written a book, called Man with No Name or something like that. And he was on with me a couple times and really, really a great inspiration to me because he said one thing. Right at the end of our show, we used to say, leave us with an inspirational thought or guiding principle that we can share with our listeners. And without skipping a beat, he said, no matter what, be positive. That's so
No
stuck
matter
with
what.
me.
Yeah.
So I suppose
Yeah.
that's an inspiration that's stuck with me for a long time.
That's good. It obviously had an impact because this is the one thing that's one thing that I try to do every day. It's not easy, but you can
Right.
control. You have the ability to control your attitude, and so I like be positive from Famous Amos. I do remember having those cookies. They were excellent.
Yeah.
And so you have such an interesting career. You're lending. You did real estate and then radio broadcasting. So what was the cadence of your show? You have over 1,000 episodes, and it was in the New York City market. And what was the cadence of the show? And what was your besides those guests that you just mentioned? What were some other guests that really had an impact on you?
That's great. So, first of all, to make a small correction for the audience, at the time I lived and worked in Cleveland, Ohio. That's where I grew up. And so the show was on 1490 AM WERE in Cleveland. And we were on terrestrial radio. We streamed live after a while. The show, the station started streaming live. So most of our shows streamed live. And we do have a lot of them recorded. You can find them on SoundCloud. Um, so the show was called Brian Stark Live, Real Estate, Finance, Business, Life. Early in the show, it had a slightly different name, but it always was about real estate, finance, business, life. My brother hosted with me for the first probably 2/3 of the years I did it. Excuse me. Anyway, so we had Brian Tracy, we had Tom Hopkins. I mentioned we had Wally Amos. I had a guest named Jordan Goodman. He had been the Wall Street reporter for Money Magazine for many years, and he's written 16 New York Times bestsellers. He was very inspirational, and he became a personal friend also. Just a great guy, very, 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 very knowledgeable about finance and Wall Street, but also how real estate works as part of the finance world. So he was a very inspirational guest. Also, I had Dave Wilson, who used to host on Bloomberg Radio. He used to host a 15-minute Market Minute or something it was called, and he also sent out a free spreadsheet every day about the markets. Dave Wilson was amazing because he was such a financial genius. I like the show was an hour long. You had about 48 minutes of actual talking because there were 2 commercial breaks and stuff. But God, I was exhausted after doing those shows with Dave Wilson because he was so bright. I could ask him a question and he would give me like half the Encyclopedia Britannica for an answer with granular detail and specifics and statistics. And oh my God, I couldn't even keep up with the guy. He was so smart. So it was great experience to know that there's people out there that just know their stuff so, so, so well. You can't go light, man. You gotta know your stuff. You gotta, if you're gonna be somebody in whatever space you are, you gotta really know what you're doing. And guys like him are leaders because he just knows so much so well. Um, who else was inspirational? I mean, I had James Taylor's sister, Kate. She was great. She was very lovely, and she had so many great stories of, performing with Carole King and all kinds of other stuff. We had a lot of fun guests. I had Peg Breen, who's still to this day the director of the New York Landmarks Conservancy. So, we have so many. I live and work in New York City now for many years. We have so many remarkable landmarks that are known around the world. She's the one who runs the conservancy that sees to it that they remain landmarks and stay in landmark status. So it was very inspirational to have her on the show because she has such detailed knowledge of how these landmarks came to be and what threat they're under. Had a very interesting guy who's a lawyer who's written a book about all the bridges and tunnels that are in disrepair all over the country. I had him on a couple shows. And so just as inspirational as all those other people were, it was sort of inspirationally scary how
Right.
dangerous our infrastructure is. So I had a lot of interesting experiences, but I suppose those were some of the most memorable. I'd have to look at the list. I had a lot of great
Yeah.
guests,
No,
thankfully.
you had a great. That's a variety of subjects too, which is interesting. And when you're interviewing people, that also just sharpens you. That's why that's really neat that you interviewed all those people and have that knowledge. And so there's things you find out. Like I didn't know our infrastructure is crumbling, and we need to do something about it. And you find out
Yeah,
something that's cool and scary. I'm
yeah.
also interested. So Cleveland, Ohio to New York City. What motivated that move to New York City?
Well, it was motivated by my lifelong desire to be a New Yorker. I've always loved New York. My father happened to have been born here, and his family was here, and then he moved as a child. But from the minute I arrived here in the 1970s for a visit one time, and got out of the tunnel and saw a billboard of Al Green smoking a cigarette with smoke coming out of the billboard. I just thought this place was so cool from the moment I visited the automat and saw the big buildings and everything. Some people find this place intimidating. Some people find it amazing, but the sort of thing like it's a great place to visit, but I wouldn't want to live there. Some people find it crazily expensive, which it is, but that's just one part of the complexion of New York. I just find it so inspiring. And then I just had to get here. And so for many, many years, I found ways to do business with New Yorkers and, integrate my business into other people's things here. And eventually I chose to start after my marriage ended, blah, blah, blah. I chose to start dating people here, and I found who became my future wife, and that became the beginning of a reason to have a home here and eventually move here. But it, business things happened here as well. And for any of you who love big cities and especially New York, I can't encourage you enough to disregard all the media hype about, all the negative things you hear. Those things all exist, but there's 8.5 million people here. So, you're going to have a few negative things. It's an amazing, unbelievable place and so inspirational. And the power and the action and the things that are going on here inspire a guy like me every second. Like I can't wait to wake up every day.
Yeah, it's own energy, Brian. I can
Yeah.
definitely see that. So I mentioned earlier about some people that were inspirational books and some of the people that you've met. Have you been involved at all in any kind of networks, masterminds, or anything that have had an impact on your life? Or can you think to one that may have had a specific impact on your business?
Well, I'm in a couple of them now. I'm a member of Global Information Network, Kevin Trudeau's thing, and that's very, very, very powerful for me. I'm in a business networking group here in New York City that I absolutely love. It's just a one-off group, so you'd have to have a business here in New York City to be a part of it. But if you do and you want to talk to me, I'm happy to share it with you. Um, it's inspirational for a lot of reasons, but it's just great guys and women who are all in different businesses, and we share and take it very seriously. Um, I, I've been in a number of them. I was a founding vice president of a real estate investors association in Cleveland, and that was a fantastic networking group. And so I encourage any real estate investor to absolutely become an active member in your RIA group or some other real estate investing group. These days we're on TikTok groups and not TikTok groups, WhatsApp groups and Telegram groups. I'm in a whole bunch of those. I'm in a couple of family office groups. Um, and the conversations back and forth and the open invitations are inspiring and wonderful. And sometimes I participate in some of that stuff. I'm in a lot of them. It's probably, and I belong to a very lovely club here. And so if you have the ability to participate in a private club, that's also good, I think, just for social networking and building your world of people who are like-minded. That's very useful. Not sure how
Yes,
else to tell you.
and so Brian,
A
and
lot of
one
that. You got to
no,
do it.
that's good.
You
That's
got to
great.
be with
So
people.
you you got to be with people. You can't be afraid to go out there and be with the people, talk to them. And I think one of the things that you put your flag in the ground is you anchor yourself in you can help people. And so it's no surprise to me that you're involved in a lot of networking groups, but because you probably get invited to them. because you're a problem solver. You help people with those things, and I'm sure it's reciprocated. All right. So the fun, Brian Stark. So we talked about this, and you know how this is. You've been in radio before. You know how the sausage is made. We had a little pre-interview, and we found out that you are a singer. You sing the Great American Songbook, and so this is interesting because I grew up. I'm a kind of a late 70s, 80s kid, but I the music that I grew up on was whatever my mom was playing. I didn't listen necessarily to a lot of 80s music, so it was. I have an Italian grandfather, and he played a lot of some of the songs I think that you sing. A lot of Frank Sinatra, a lot of Dean Martin. But tell us about that. What do you do? Is this a professional thing? Is this a fun thing? Is this kind of a hybrid of that?
Well, excuse me, I'm just getting over the flu a little bit. Well, it's all of those things. It's always been fun for me. I've been a musician and a singer since I was a teenager. Started out as a youth group song leader, and excuse me, I'm so sorry.
No, you're good.
Eventually developed an interest in what we know as the Great American Songbook. You know, the songs that were written in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, and then a few of them in the 70s. And if you think of Frank, Sam, Tony, Dean Martin, Matt Monroe, there's a couple of dozen, Nancy Wilson. Those singers sang the stuff that I love to sing, and it's just great music. So I've done it quite a lot professionally. I've worked in clubs here in the city quite a bit. I was in a little show on Broadway at Caroline's on Broadway. And I actually just had a rehearsal last Saturday and another one this Saturday with a great old piano player, a sort of a cabaret favorite here in New York City, who I'm kind of working up some stuff with. So yeah, I do it for fun. It's probably the activity I love most, the public activity I love most, and I do it for money. But I would do it for free. I've done it for free because I love doing it, and it's another way of communicating. And I suppose reaching out to people in a different way. I've always loved singing and musical performance. Yeah. So. Well,
Brian, this has been just a fantastic time for me to find out a little bit more about you and what your origin story was, and then kind of end there with the fun. But how can our audience, if they want to use your services, your lending services, how do we find you? Where are you at on the internet?
Thank you so much. So the easiest way is to just send me an email, brian@starkworld.com, brian@starkworld.com. You can also go to New Vita Funding. My company's called N as in Nancy, UV as in Victor, IDA, newvitafunding.com. And you can go to, if you don't mind a shameless plug, you can go to TikTok and find Brian Stark Sings. And I have all kinds of TikTok videos with real estate education. My name there is Mr. TikToks. So MisterTikToks. And I keep doing more of them. Yeah, just free. There's no, nothing to buy. Just, good information.
That's great. Well, Brian, thanks again for being part of the podcast. Folks, thanks for watching the Real Estate Pros podcast brought to you by Investor Fuel. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.